Marcus Chen stood very still in the morning sun. His green army uniform was perfect. Every button was shiny. Every crease was sharp. His boots were so clean they looked like mirrors. He was ready for inspection. The other soldiers around him looked good too, but not like Marcus. His uniform was too perfect. His hair was cut too short. His face was too serious. At 24 years old, Marcus looked like he was still in high school. "Look at our toy soldier," whispered Lieutenant Jake Morrison. He stood 3 spots away from Marcus. Jake was tall and strong. His voice was deep. All the other soldiers liked him. "He probably irons his underwear," said Sergeant Tony Walsh. The men around him started to laugh quietly. They tried not to let the officers hear them. Marcus heard every word. He always did. But he did not move. He did not look at them. He kept staring straight ahead. His face showed nothing. The morning inspection happened every day at Fort Harrison. All the soldiers had to stand in long lines. The officers would walk by and check their uniforms. They would look for dirty boots or messy hair. If anything was wrong, the soldier would get in trouble. Marcus never got in trouble. His uniform was always perfect. This made the other soldiers angry. They thought he was trying too hard. They thought he was trying to make them look bad. "Ten Hut," shouted Captain Rodriguez. All the soldiers stood up straighter. They put their arms at their sides. They stopped talking. Captain Rodriguez walked down the line of soldiers. He was a good officer. He was fair but strict. Behind him walked 2 other officers. They all looked serious. When Captain Rodriguez got to Marcus, he stopped. He looked at Marcus's uniform very carefully. He checked his boots. He looked at his belt. He even checked behind his ears to see if they were clean. "Good job, Chen," said Captain Rodriguez. He moved on to the next soldier. Marcus felt proud, but he did not smile. He never smiled during inspection. The other soldiers rolled their eyes when they heard the captain praise Marcus. After the officers finished checking everyone, Captain Rodriguez spoke to all the soldiers. "Listen up, men. We have important news. General Hawthorne is coming to visit our base next week. She will do a full inspection of our unit. I want everyone to be at their best." The soldiers started to whisper to each other. General Hawthorne was famous in the army. She was tough and smart. She did not accept anything less than perfect. "Chen," called Captain Rodriguez. "Yes, sir," Marcus said loudly. "I want you to help. Train the other soldiers this week. Make sure everyone looks as good as you do." Marcus felt his stomach drop. This was the last thing he wanted. The other soldiers already did not like him. Now they would hate him even more. "Yes, sir," he said. Anyway, after the inspection ended, the soldiers went to eat breakfast. Marcus walked to the mess hall by himself. He always ate alone. The mess hall was a big room with long tables. It smelled like eggs and coffee. Soldiers sat with their friends and talked loudly. When Marcus walked in, some of them stopped talking and stared at him. Marcus got his food and sat at an empty table in the corner. He had scrambled eggs, toast, and orange juice. He ate slowly and quietly. "Hey, toy soldier," called Jake Morrison from across the room. "You excited about training us?" The other soldiers laughed. Marcus kept eating. He did not look up. "I bet he has a checklist for everything," said Tony Walsh. "How to brush your teeth the army way. How to tie your shoes like a real soldier." More. Soldiers laughed. Marcus finished his eggs. Under his shirt collar, he could feel something pressing against his skin. It was small and metal. It was hidden where no one could see it. The metal thing was an emblem. It was not like the normal army badges that soldiers wore on their uniforms. This one was special. It was secret. Very few people in the world knew what it meant. The emblem was silver and black. It had an eagle holding a lightning bolt. Under the eagle were words in Latin, "Sine nomine." This meant, without a name. Marcus had worn this emblem for 3 years. He wore it every day, hidden under his collar. It reminded him of who he really was. It reminded him that he was not just a regular soldier, but Marcus could never tell anyone about the emblem. If he did, bad things would happen. People would try to capture him. They would try to study him. They would try to use him. So Marcus let the other soldiers call him names. He let them laugh at him. He let them think he was just a strange soldier who cared too much about rules. After breakfast, Marcus went to his training. All soldiers at Fort Harrison had to do physical training every morning. They would run, do push-ups, and lift weights. Marcus was good at physical training, but he was careful not to be too good. He could run much faster than the other soldiers. He could do many more push-ups. He could lift much heavier weights. But if he did his best, people would ask questions. So Marcus ran at the same speed as the other soldiers. When they got tired, he pretended to get tired too. When they struggled with the exercises, he pretended to struggle as well. "Come on, Chen," shouted the training sergeant. "You can do better than that." Marcus pushed himself a little harder, but not too much. He finished the run in the middle of the group. Not first, not last. The other soldiers were breathing hard when they finished. Some of them bent over with their hands on their knees. Marcus was barely breathing hard at all, but he pretended to be tired like them. "Good job today, everyone," said the training sergeant. "Chen, you need to work on your speed. You were falling behind." "Yes, sir," said Marcus. "I will do better tomorrow." Jake Morrison shook his head. "Our toy soldier can't even run fast," he said to his friends. "How is he going to train us for the general's visit?" Marcus walked back to his room in the barracks. The barracks was a long building where the soldiers slept. Each soldier had a small room with a bed, a desk, and a closet. Marcus's room was the cleanest room in the barracks. His bed was made perfectly. His desk had nothing on it except one notebook and one pen. His closet had all his uniforms hanging, in a straight line. Marcus sat on his bed and touched the emblem under his collar. He thought about his real training. Not the training he did with the other soldiers, but the secret training he had done before he came to Fort Harrison. That training had been very different. It had been harder than anything these soldiers could imagine. It had changed him in ways that no one could see. It had made him stronger, faster, and smarter than any normal person. But Marcus had to keep all of that hidden. He had to act like a normal soldier. He had to let people think he was weak. He had to let them call him a toy soldier. Marcus looked out his window at the other soldiers walking around the base. They had no idea what was coming. They had no idea that their toy soldier was something completely different. In 6 days, General Hawthorne would arrive and everything would change. The black cars came early in the morning. Marcus watched from his window as 3 dark vehicles drove through the gates of Fort Harrison. He knew who was inside. General Patricia Hawthorne had arrived. Marcus felt something tight in his chest. He had been waiting for this day for 3 years, not because he wanted to impress the general like the other soldiers. Marcus was waiting because he knew this day might change everything. All week, Marcus had helped train the other soldiers. He showed them how to clean their uniforms better. He taught them how to stand straighter. He helped them practice marching, in perfect lines. The other soldiers did not like taking orders from Marcus. Jake Morrison complained every day. "Why do we have to listen to the toy soldier?" he would say. But Captain Rodriguez made them do it anyway. Now the day was here. Marcus put on his best uniform. He checked every button twice. He made sure his boots were perfect. Under his collar, the secret emblem pressed against his skin. At 8 o'clock, all the soldiers gathered on the main field. They stood in long, straight lines. Everyone was nervous. General Hawthorne was the most important person who had ever visited Fort Harrison. Marcus stood in the front row. He was shorter than most of the other soldiers, so he looked small, but his uniform was the best on the field. Even the soldiers who did not like him had to admit that. "Here she comes," whispered someone behind Marcus. General Hawthorne walked onto the field. She was a tall woman with gray hair. Her uniform had many medals on it. She had been in the army for 30 years. She had fought in wars. She had commanded thousands of soldiers. Behind the general walked several other officers. They all looked serious and important. Captain Rodriguez walked with them. He looked nervous. General Hawthorne stopped in front of the soldiers. She looked at them with sharp, dark eyes. Those eyes had seen everything. They missed nothing. "Good morning, soldiers," said the general. Her voice was strong and clear. "Good morning, General," all the soldiers shouted back. General Hawthorne began to walk down the first line of soldiers. She stopped at each one. She looked at their uniforms. She checked their posture. Sometimes she asked questions. "What is your job here, soldier?" She asked one man. "I work in the motor pool, General. I fix trucks and jeeps." "Do you like your job?" "Yes, General. Very much." The general nodded and moved on. Marcus watched her get closer and closer to him. He could feel his heart beating faster. Not because he was scared of the inspection. Marcus was never scared of inspections. He was nervous because of what might happen. The general reached the soldier next to Marcus. She looked at his uniform and nodded. Then she stepped in front of Marcus. General Hawthorne looked down at Marcus. He was much shorter than her. His young face looked serious. His uniform was perfect in every way. "What is your name, soldier?" asked the general. "Lieutenant Marcus Chen, General." "How long have you been at Fort Harrison, Lieutenant Chen?" 3 years, General." The general looked at Marcus more carefully. There was something about him that was different from the other soldiers. He stood very still. His eyes looked straight ahead. But there was something else. Something she could not quite identify. General Hawthorne had been inspecting soldiers for many years. She could usually tell what kind of person a soldier was just by looking at them. Some were brave. Some were scared. Some were lazy. Some worked hard. But Marcus was different. He looked like a young soldier who followed all the rules. But behind his eyes, the general saw something else. She saw intelligence. She saw secrets. General Hawthorne stepped closer to Marcus. She pretended to check his uniform buttons. But really, she was looking for something else. That was when she saw it. At the edge of Marcus's collar, where his shirt met his neck, there was a tiny flash of silver. It was so small that most people would never notice it. But General Hawthorne was not most people. The general's breath caught in her throat. She had seen that silver color before. She had seen it on only 2 other soldiers in her entire career. Both times it had been soldiers who were part of something very secret, something very dangerous. General Hawthorne tried to keep her face calm. She did not want anyone to see that she had noticed something important. She looked at Marcus's uniform for a few more seconds. "Very good, Lieutenant," she said in a normal voice, "and your uniform is excellent." "Thank you, General," said Marcus. But as General Hawthorne moved away from Marcus, her mind was racing. That flash of silver was not a regular army badge. It was something much more important. It was something that was supposed to be a secret. The general continued down the line of soldiers. She asked them questions and checked their uniforms, but part of her mind kept thinking about Marcus Chen. 20 years ago, General Hawthorne had met a soldier who wore a similar emblem. That soldier had saved her life and the lives of 50 other people. He had done things that seemed impossible. He had been faster and stronger than any normal person could be. After that mission, the soldier had disappeared. General Hawthorne had tried to find out more about him, but all the files were classified. No one would tell her anything. 5 years later, she had met another soldier with a similar emblem. That soldier had also done amazing things. He had stopped a terrorist attack that could have killed thousands of people. Then he had also disappeared. Both soldiers had been part of something called Project Prometheus. General Hawthorne had heard whispers about it over the years. People said it was a program to create super soldiers. People said it had been shut down. But General Hawthorne was starting to think it had never really ended. After the inspection, General Hawthorne met with the base officers. They sat in a conference room and talked about the soldiers and the base. "Your men look very good, Captain Rodriguez," said the general. "They are well trained and disciplined." "Thank you, General. We work hard to maintain high standards." "Tell me about Lieutenant Chen," said the general, the short one in the front row. Captain Rodriguez smiled. "Chen is an interesting case, General. He is probably the best soldier on the base when it comes to following rules. His uniform is always perfect. He never breaks any regulations." "But?" asked the general. She could hear something in the captain's voice. "But the other soldiers do not like him very much. They think he tries too hard. They call him the toy soldier." "What do you think of him?" Captain Rodriguez thought for a moment. He is a good soldier, General, very reliable, but there is something strange about him. He keeps to himself, he does not have any friends. Sometimes I wonder if he is hiding something. General Hawthorne nodded. Has he ever done anything unusual? Anything that seemed beyond what a normal soldier could do? No, General. Actually, he is not very good at physical training. He is slow and not very strong. That is another reason the other soldiers do not respect him. This surprised General Hawthorne. The other soldiers with the secret emblem had been incredible athletes. They could run faster and fight better than anyone else. But Marcus seemed to be the opposite, unless he was hiding his real abilities on purpose. I would like to meet with Lieutenant Chen privately, said the general. Can you arrange that? Of course, General. When would you like to see him? Tonight, after dinner. Tell him to come to my temporary office at 8 o'clock. Yes, General. Should I tell him what the meeting is about? No, said the general. Just tell him I want to speak with him. That evening, Marcus got ready for his meeting with the general. He knew this moment might come someday. He had been trained to handle it. But he was still nervous. Marcus put on a fresh uniform. He made sure the secret emblem was completely hidden under his collar. He practiced what he would say if the general asked him difficult questions. At exactly 8 o'clock, Marcus knocked on the door of the general's temporary office. Come in, said General Hawthorne. Marcus opened the door and stepped inside. The office was small and simple. General Hawthorne sat behind a desk. She was still wearing her uniform, but she had taken off her jacket. Close the door, Lieutenant, said the general. Marcus closed the door and stood at attention. Sit down, said the general, pointing to a chair in front of her desk. Marcus sat down carefully. He kept his back straight and his hands on his knees. General Hawthorne looked at Marcus for a long time without saying anything. She was studying his face. She was looking for clues. Relax, Lieutenant, said the general finally. This is not an official meeting. I just want to talk to you. But Marcus could not relax. He knew that this conversation might change his entire life. Everything he had worked for in the past 3 years depended on what happened in the next few minutes. Tell me about yourself, Lieutenant Chen, said the general. Where are you from? California, General. Los Angeles. What did you do before you joined the Army? Marcus had practiced this answer many times. I went to college, General. I studied engineering. Why did you join the Army? I wanted to serve my country, General. These were all the answers that Marcus was supposed to give. They were all true, but they were not the whole truth. General Hawthorne asked him several more questions about his background and his time at Fort Harrison. Marcus answered them all correctly. Then the general leaned forward in her chair. Lieutenant Chen, she said quietly, I want you to show me what is under your collar. Marcus felt his whole body go cold. For 3 years he had kept his secret hidden. No one had ever asked him to show what was under his collar. No one had ever suspected anything. But now General Hawthorne was staring at him with those sharp eyes. She knew something. Marcus could see it in her face. I do not understand, General, Marcus said carefully. What do you mean? You know exactly what I mean, Lieutenant, said the general. Her voice was quiet but firm. I saw something during the inspection today. Something silver. Something that should not be there. Marcus's mind raced. He had been trained for this situation, but he had hoped it would never happen. He had several choices. He could lie and say he did not know what she was talking about. He could try to leave the room, or he could tell the truth. All of these choices were dangerous. General, I think there has been a mistake, Marcus said. I do not have anything unusual under my collar. General Hawthorne stood up from her chair. She walked around the desk and stood in front of Marcus. Even though he was sitting down, she was much taller than him. Lieutenant Chen, she said, I have been in the Army for 30 years. I have seen things that most people cannot imagine. I know what I saw today. She paused and looked directly into Marcus's eyes. 20 years ago, I met a soldier who wore something very similar to what you are hiding. That soldier saved my life and the lives of 50 other people. He did things that seemed impossible. Marcus felt his heart pounding. General Hawthorne knew about Project Prometheus. That was supposed to be impossible. The project was so secret that only a few dozen people in the world knew it existed. 5 years later, the general continued, I met another soldier with the same kind of emblem. He stopped a terrorist attack that could have killed thousands of people. Marcus stared at the general. She was telling him about other Prometheus soldiers. Marcus had always wondered if there were others like him. He had been told that he was part of a small group, but he had never met any of the others. Both of those soldiers disappeared after their missions, said the general. All the files about them were classified. No one would tell me anything about who they were or where they came from. The general sat on the edge of her desk closer to Marcus. But I never forgot them, she said, and I never forgot what that emblem looked like. Marcus knew he was trapped. The general had seen too much. She knew too much. He could not lie his way out of this situation. Marcus made his decision. Slowly, he reached up and unbuttoned the top button of his shirt. He pulled back the collar slightly. There, hanging on, a thin silver chain around his neck was the emblem. It was about the size of a quarter. It was made of silver and black metal. In the center was an eagle with its wings spread wide. The eagle was holding a lightning bolt in its claws. At the bottom were words in Latin, Sine nomine. General Hawthorne stared at the emblem. Her face went pale. She had seen it before, but seeing it again after all these years still shocked her. My God, she whispered. You are one of them. Marcus quickly covered the emblem and buttoned his shirt again. But it was too late. The general had seen everything. What is your real name? Asked the general. Marcus Chen is my real name, General, Marcus said. I have been using it my whole life. But you are not just a regular soldier. Marcus was quiet for a moment. He was trying to decide how much to tell her. His training had taught him to reveal as little as possible, even to high-ranking officers. No, General, Marcus said finally. I am not just a regular soldier. Tell me about Project Prometheus, said the general. Marcus was surprised that she knew the name of the project. Very few people outside of the program had ever heard that name. I cannot talk about that, General, Marcus said. It is classified, above your security level. General Hawthorne laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. Lieutenant, I have the highest security clearance in the United States Army. There are very few things that are classified above my level. Project Prometheus is one of them, said Marcus. The general studied Marcus's face. She could see that he was telling the truth. This made her realize just how secret this project really was. How long have you been part of the project? She asked. Marcus hesitated. Since I was 18 years old, General. That was 6 years ago. Yes, General. What did they do to you? This was a question that Marcus definitely could not answer. The things that had been done to him as part of Project Prometheus were some of the most classified secrets in the world. I cannot tell you that, General, Marcus said. Can you tell me why you are here at Fort Harrison? Marcus thought about this question. He could give her a partial answer without revealing too much. I am here waiting for orders, General. When the time comes, I will receive a mission. What kind of mission? I do not know yet, General. I will find out when they contact me. General Hawthorne walked back to her chair and sat down. She was trying to process everything she had learned. Marcus Chen was not the weak, rule-following soldier that everyone thought he was. He was something much more dangerous. The other soldiers call you a toy soldier, said the general. They think you are weak. Yes, General. That is what they are supposed to think. You have been pretending to be weak on purpose. Yes, General. What are your real abilities, Lieutenant? Marcus shook his head. I cannot tell you that, General. General Hawthorne was getting frustrated. She wanted answers, but Marcus was not giving her many details. Lieutenant, she said, I am ordering you to tell me about your abilities. General, with respect, you do not have the authority to give me that order. My chain of command goes above the regular Army structure. This shocked General Hawthorne. She was one of the highest-ranking officers in the Army. The idea that a young lieutenant could refuse her direct order was almost unbelievable. But Marcus was right. Project Prometheus operated outside normal military channels. The soldiers in the program answered to a completely different set of commanders. "Who do you report to?" asked the general. "I cannot tell you that either, General." General Hawthorne sat back in her chair. She was starting to understand just how deep this secret went. Project Prometheus was not just a classified program. It was something that operated in the shadows, completely separate from the normal military. "Are there others like you?" she asked. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he said, "Yes, General, there are others." "How many?" "I do not know the exact number. We are not supposed to contact each other. We do not know where the others are stationed. But you all wear the same emblem." "Yes, General." General Hawthorne looked at Marcus with new respect. She was beginning to realize that she was sitting across from someone who might be one of the most dangerous people in the world. "The other soldiers here have no idea what you really are," she said. "That is correct, General. And it needs to stay that way." "Why?" "Because if people knew what I was, they would try to capture me. They would try to study me. They would try to use me for their own purposes." General Hawthorne understood this. If the wrong people found out about Project Prometheus, it could be very dangerous. "What happens now?" asked the general. "Nothing happens, General," said Marcus. "You forget what you saw today. I continue to be the toy soldier that everyone thinks I am, and we all go on with our lives." But General Hawthorne shook her head. "I cannot forget what I know, Lieutenant, and I do not think this conversation is over." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He had revealed too much. The general knew too much. This could create serious problems. "General," Marcus said carefully, "there are people who monitor Project Prometheus soldiers. If they find out that someone has discovered my identity, they will take action." "What kind of action?" "I do not know, General, but it will not be good for either of us." General Hawthorne thought about this. She realized that she had stumbled into something much bigger and more dangerous than she had expected. "Are you threatening me, Lieutenant?" she asked. "No, General. I am warning you. I do not want anything bad to happen to you. But there are forces at work here that are beyond my control." The two of them sat in silence for several minutes. Both of them were thinking about what this conversation meant. Finally, General Hawthorne spoke. "Lieutenant Chen, I want you to know that I respect what you are doing. I may not understand it completely, but I know that soldiers like you have saved many lives. Thank you, General. But I also want you to know that if you ever need help, you can come to me. I may not have authority over your project, but I have authority over this base. I can protect you here." Marcus was surprised by this offer. He had not expected the general to be supportive. "I appreciate that, General," he said, "but I hope it will not be necessary." "So do I, Lieutenant. So do I." General Hawthorne stood up, indicating that the meeting was over. "You can go now," she said. "But, Lieutenant?" "Yes, General. Be careful. I have a feeling that your secret may not stay hidden much longer." Marcus left the general's office feeling worried. She was right. His secret was becoming harder to keep. And if the wrong people found out about him, everything could fall apart very quickly. The next morning, Marcus woke up before dawn. He had not slept well. His conversation with General Hawthorne kept playing in his mind. He touched the emblem under his collar and wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. Marcus got dressed and went to the mess hall for breakfast. It was still early, so there were not many soldiers there yet. He got his food and sat at his usual table in the corner. A few minutes later, General Hawthorne walked into the mess hall. This was unusual. Generals did not usually eat with regular soldiers. Marcus watched as she got her food and looked around the room. Their eyes met for just a second. General Hawthorne gave him a small nod, then sat at a table on the other side of the room. Marcus finished his breakfast quickly and left. He did not want people to notice that the general was paying attention to him. During the morning training, Marcus was extra careful to appear normal. He ran at his usual slow pace. He did push-ups like a weak soldier. He made sure not to do anything that would make people suspicious. But all day, Marcus felt like someone was watching him. Every time he turned around, he expected to see strangers on the base, He expected to see black cars that did not belong there. Project Prometheus had people who watched the soldiers in the program. Marcus had never seen them, but he knew they were there. If they found out that his cover had been blown, they would come for him. That evening, Marcus was in his room reading when someone knocked on his door. He opened it and found a young soldier he did not recognize. "Lieutenant Chen?" the soldier asked. "Yes. General Hawthorne wants to see you in her office right away." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Why did the general want to see him again so soon? Marcus walked to the general's office and knocked on the door. "Come in," said General Hawthorne. Marcus entered the room and was surprised to see that the general was not alone. There was another person sitting in a chair facing away from the door. When the person turned around, Marcus saw that it was an older man in a civilian suit. "Close the door, Lieutenant," said the general. Marcus closed the door but remained standing, near it. He was ready to run if he needed to. "Sit down," said the general. "I want you to meet someone." Marcus sat down carefully. He looked at the man in the suit. The man was about 60 years old with gray hair and a serious face. He looked like someone who was used to giving orders. "Lieutenant Chen," said General Hawthorne, "this is Dr. William Harper. He was one of the original scientists who worked on Project Prometheus." Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. Dr. Harper was a name he knew. Dr. Harper had been part of the team that created the program. But Marcus had been told that Dr. Harper was dead. "Hello, Marcus," said Dr. Harper. "It is good to finally meet you." Marcus did not know what to say. According to his files, Dr. Harper had died in a car accident 5 years ago, but here he was, sitting in General Hawthorne's office. "You look surprised," said Dr. Harper. "I suppose you thought I was dead?" "Yes, sir," Marcus said quietly. "That was necessary for my protection," said Dr. Harper. "There are people who want to find the scientists who worked on Prometheus. It was safer for everyone if they thought I was gone." General Hawthorne leaned forward in her chair. "Dr. Harper contacted me this morning," she said. "He has been monitoring communications from this base. He knew that I had discovered your identity." Marcus looked back and forth between the general and Dr. Harper. This was getting more complicated by the minute. "How did you know?" Marcus asked Dr. Harper. "We monitor all Project Prometheus soldiers," said Dr. Harper. "We watch for signs that their covers might be blown. When General Hawthorne started asking questions about you, we knew something had happened." "Are you here to take me away?" asked Marcus. Dr. Harper shook his head. "No, Marcus, I am here to help you, and to tell you both some things that you need to know." Dr. Harper reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "General Hawthorne," he said, "you have asked many questions about Project Prometheus. You deserve to know the truth." He opened the folder and pulled out some old photographs. "Project Prometheus began 25 years ago," Dr. Harper said. "The government wanted to create soldiers who were stronger, faster, and smarter than normal people. The idea was to have a small group of super soldiers who could handle the most dangerous missions." He showed them a photograph of a laboratory. "We worked for years to develop the process. We used a combination of genetic therapy, chemical enhancement, and psychological conditioning. It was very dangerous work. Many of our early test subjects died." Marcus had heard parts of this story before, but not all the details. "After 10 years of research, we finally succeeded," Dr. Harper continued. "We created our first successful super soldier. His name was David Collins." Dr. Harper showed them a photograph of a young man in an army uniform. "David was incredible," said Dr. Harper. "He could run 50 miles without getting tired. He could lift twice his body weight. He could solve complex problems in seconds. He was everything we had hoped for." General Hawthorne studied the photograph. "Is this the soldier I met 20 years ago?" "Yes," said Dr. Harper. "David saved your life during that mission in Eastern Europe." "What happened to him?" asked the general. Dr. Harper's face became sad. "David was killed 3 years later during a mission in Africa. But before he died, we had already begun creating more soldiers." He pulled out another photograph. "This one showed 5 young people in civilian clothes. The second generation of Prometheus soldiers was even better than David, said Dr. Harper. We had learned from our mistakes. We made them stronger and more stable. Marcus looked at the photograph. One of the people in it looked familiar. Is that Sarah Kim? Marcus asked, pointing to a young woman in the photo. Yes, said Dr. Harper. Sarah was part of the second generation. She is still active. In fact, she is currently stationed in Germany. This was news to Marcus. He had always wondered about the other Prometheus soldiers, but he had never been told anything about them. The third generation is the most advanced yet, Dr. Harper continued. He pulled out a photograph that showed Marcus and 4 other young people. This is your generation, Marcus, said Dr. Harper. You and your 4 teammates are the most capable soldiers we have ever created. Marcus stared at the photograph. He recognized the other people in it, but he had not seen them since their training ended 6 years ago. Where are the others? Marcus asked. They are all stationed at different bases around the world, said Dr. Harper. Like you, they are living under cover waiting for their missions. General Hawthorne had been listening to all of this with growing amazement. How many people know about this program? She asked. Very few, said Dr. Harper. Maybe 20 people in the entire government. It is one of the most classified programs in the world. Why are you telling me all of this? Asked the general. Doctor. Harper's face became very serious. Because something has gone wrong, he said. Someone is trying to find and capture Prometheus soldiers. 3 weeks ago, Sarah Kim disappeared from her base in Germany. 2 weeks ago, another soldier named Alex Rodriguez vanished from his post in Japan. Marcus felt a chill run through his body. What happened to them? We do not know, said Dr. Harper. They just disappeared. No messages, no signs of struggle. They were there one day and gone the next. Do you think they were kidnapped? Asked General Hawthorne. That is our biggest fear, said Dr. Harper. If someone has captured them, they might try to study them. They might try to figure out how to create their own super soldiers. Marcus understood why Dr. Harper was so worried. The Prometheus process was incredibly dangerous. If the wrong people got hold of it, they could create an army of super soldiers for their own purposes. Why are you telling us this? Asked Marcus. Because we think you might be next, said Dr. Harper. Whoever is taking the Prometheus soldiers seems to be working their way through the list. Marcus, you could be in serious danger. General Hawthorne looked at Marcus with concern. What can we do to protect him? That is why I am here, said Dr. Harper. I want to move Marcus to a more secure location, somewhere where we can keep him safe. But Marcus shook his head. No, he said. I have been here for 3 years. This is my assignment. I am not going to run away. Marcus, said Dr. Harper, you do not understand how dangerous this situation is. These people, whoever they are, have managed to capture 2 Prometheus soldiers. That should be impossible. Maybe Sarah and Alex were not being careful enough, said Marcus. Maybe they let their guards down. Or maybe, said General Hawthorne, whoever is doing this knows more about your program than you think. This thought had occurred to Dr. Harper as well. The fact that someone could find and capture Prometheus soldiers suggested that they had inside information. There might be a spy in the program, Dr. Harper admitted. Someone who knows where all the soldiers are stationed. Marcus felt sick to his stomach. The idea that someone inside Project Prometheus might be betraying them was terrifying. What do you want me to do? Marcus asked. Dr. Harper thought for a moment. For now, stay here. But be extra careful. Watch for anything unusual. If you see strangers on the base or if anyone starts asking questions about you, contact me immediately. He handed Marcus a small device that looked like a phone. This is a secure communicator, Dr. Harper said. If you are in danger, press the red button. Help will come within an hour. 3 days passed after Dr. Harper's visit. Marcus tried to act normal, but it was getting harder. Every time he saw a new face on the base, he wondered if they were there to capture him. Every time someone looked at him strangely, he worried that his secret was getting out. The other soldiers noticed that Marcus seemed different. During training, he was more quiet than usual. He kept looking around like he expected something bad to happen. "What is wrong with the toy soldier?" "Jake," Morrison asked his friends. "He looked scared." "Maybe the general told him he was not good enough," laughed Tony Walsh. "Maybe they are going to send him home." But Marcus was not scared of being sent home. He was scared of much worse things. On Thursday morning, General Hawthorne called a meeting with all the officers. Marcus was invited because he was a lieutenant, even though the other soldiers did not think he deserved his rank. The meeting was held in the main conference room. General Hawthorne stood at the front of the room with a serious expression on her face. "Gentlemen," she said, "we have received orders for a special training exercise. This will be different from our normal training." The officers looked interested. Special exercises usually meant more exciting work than their regular duties. "We will be working with soldiers from 3 other bases," the general continued. "The exercise will test our ability to handle a crisis situation." She walked to a large map on the wall. "The scenario is this. A group of terrorists has taken hostages in a building complex 20 miles from here. The local police cannot handle the situation. The regular army units are too far away to help quickly. We are the only ones who can respond." General Hawthorne pointed to different areas on the map. "The terrorists are holding 12 hostages in the main building. They have weapons and explosives. They have said they will kill the hostages if anyone tries to rescue them." Captain Rodriguez raised his hand. "General, what is our objective?" "What is our objective is to rescue all the hostages without any casualties," said the general. "We will be judged on how quickly and safely we can complete this mission." The officers started talking excitedly among themselves. This sounded like a real challenge. "I will be dividing you into teams," said the general. "Each team will have a different role in the mission." She began reading names from a list. "Captain Rodriguez, you will lead the main assault team. Lieutenant Morrison, you will command the support team. Lieutenant Walsh, you will be in charge of communications." Marcus waited to hear his name, but the general kept reading other names. Finally, she said, "Lieutenant Chen, you will lead the hostage rescue team." The room became very quiet. The other officers looked shocked. Marcus was being given one of the most important jobs in the exercise. Jake Morrison could not help himself. "General," he said, "are you sure about that? Chen has never led anything before." General Hawthorne gave Jake a cold stare. "Are you questioning my decision, Lieutenant?" "No, General," Jake said quickly. "I just thought that maybe someone with more experience might be better for such an important job." "Lieutenant Chen has exactly the experience we need for this mission," said the general firmly. "Does anyone else have questions about the team assignments?" No one else said anything, but Marcus could see the doubt in their faces. They thought the general was making a mistake. After the meeting, Marcus stayed behind to talk to General Hawthorne. "General," he said when they were alone, "why did you give me the rescue mission?" General Hawthorne smiled. "Because I want to see what you can really do, Lieutenant. I think this exercise will be very educational for everyone." Marcus understood. The general wanted him to show his real abilities. She wanted to see if he was really as capable as Dr. Harper had claimed. "General," Marcus said, "if I do what you are asking, everyone will know that I am not who they think I am." "Maybe it is time for that to happen," said the general. "Dr. Harper said you might be in danger anyway. Maybe it is better for people to know what you can do. It might help protect you." Marcus was not sure about this. His whole life for the past 3 years had been about hiding his abilities. The idea of revealing them scared him. "I will do my best, General," he said finally. "I know you will, Lieutenant." The next morning, all the soldiers gathered for the training exercise. They drove in trucks to the exercise site, which was an old factory complex that was no longer being used. The complex had been set up to look like a real hostage situation. There were buildings that looked like they had been taken over by terrorists. There were fake explosives and weapons everywhere. Actors were playing the roles of hostages and terrorists. General Hawthorne explained the rules to all the teams. "You have 2 hours to complete the mission," she said. "You will be judged on speed, safety, and teamwork. There are observers from other bases watching, so do your best." Marcus looked around and saw that there were indeed observers from other military units. Some of them were high-ranking officers. This exercise was more important than he had realized. "Lieutenant Chen," said the general, "your team will have the most difficult job. The hostages are being held in the center building. It is heavily guarded. The terrorists have said they will kill the hostages if they see any soldiers approaching." Marcus nodded. He had been studying maps of the building complex all week. He knew exactly where the hostages were and how many guards were protecting them. "You will have 4 soldiers on your team," said the general. She pointed to 4 men standing nearby. "These men have volunteered to work with you." Marcus looked at his team members. They were all good soldiers, but he could see doubt in their eyes too. They did not think their young lieutenant could lead them successfully. "All right, everyone," said General Hawthorne. "The exercise begins now. Good luck." The teams spread out to take their positions. Marcus gathered his 4 team members around him. "Listen carefully," he said. "We have one chance to do this right. I am going to tell you exactly what we need to do, and I need you to follow my orders without question." The soldiers looked at each other uncertainly. Marcus sounded different than he usually did. His voice was more confident and commanding. "Sir," said one of the soldiers, "should not we wait for the other teams to get into position first?" "No," said Marcus. "We are going to move immediately, while the terrorists think we are still planning." Marcus pulled out a detailed map of the building complex. He had drawn marks all over it showing guard positions and escape routes. "The terrorists have 12 guards around the main building," Marcus said. 6 outside, 6 inside. The hostages are in the basement." "How do you know all that?" asked another soldier. "I scouted the area yesterday night," said Marcus. This was not true, but Marcus could not tell them that he had studied the building plans and figured out the terrorist positions just by looking at them. Marcus pointed to different areas on the map. "Johnson, you will approach from the east side. There is a guard at the back door. You need to take him out quietly. Williams, you will create a distraction at the front of the building to draw the other guards away. Thompson and Davis, you will come with me through the side entrance." The soldiers stared at Marcus. This was not the weak, uncertain lieutenant they knew. This person sounded like he knew exactly what he was doing. "Sir," said Johnson, "this plan seems very risky. Should not we coordinate with the other teams?" "There is no time," said Marcus. "The other teams are moving too slowly. If we wait for them, the exercise will be over before we rescue the hostages." Marcus was right. Looking around the complex, the other teams were still setting up their equipment and discussing their plans. "Are you ready?" asked Marcus. The 4 soldiers nodded, even though they still looked uncertain. "Remember," said Marcus, "this is just an exercise, but we should treat it like a real situation. The hostages are counting on us." The team moved out toward the main building. Marcus led them through areas where they could not be seen by the guards. As they got closer to the building, Marcus could hear and see things that the other soldiers could not. His enhanced senses allowed him to detect exactly where each guard was positioned. "Johnson," he whispered into his radio, "the guard at the back door just moved to the left side of the building. You have a clear path now." Johnson looked confused. From where he was standing, he could not see the back door or the guard, but he trusted Marcus and moved forward. A few seconds later, Johnson's voice came over the radio. "Target down. How did you know he had moved?" Marcus did not answer. He was already moving toward the side entrance with Thompson and Davis. When they reached the building, Marcus could hear voices inside. Using his enhanced hearing, he could tell exactly how many people were in each room and where they were standing. "There are 3 guards on the first floor," Marcus whispered to his team. 2 in the front room, 1 in the hallway. The stairs to the basement are at the back of the building." Thompson stared at Marcus. "Sir, how can you possibly know all that?" "Just trust me," said Marcus. They entered the building through the side door. Marcus moved with a speed and silence that surprised his team members. He seemed to know exactly where to step to avoid making noise. When they encountered the first guard, Marcus moved so quickly that the man was down before he could react. Thompson and Davis watched in amazement as their lieutenant displayed fighting skills they had never seen before. Williams. 2 weeks after the training exercise, everything had changed for Marcus. The other soldiers no longer called him toy soldier. They no longer made fun of him. Instead, they looked at him with respect and curiosity. But Marcus was not happy about this change. Respect and curiosity meant attention, and attention was the last thing he wanted. Jake Morrison now tried to be friendly with Marcus. "Hey, Chen," he would say, "want to eat lunch with us today?" Tony Walsh asked him questions about tactics and fighting. How did you move so fast during the rescue? He wanted to know. Marcus tried to give simple answers. "I just followed my training," he would say. But these answers did not satisfy anyone. The worst part was that Marcus could feel people watching him all the time. During physical training, the other soldiers watched to see if he would show more of his real abilities. During meals, people stared at him from other tables. Even when he was alone in his room, Marcus felt like someone was observing him. Marcus was right to be worried. Someone was indeed watching him. Colonel James Murdoch had been at the training exercise 2 weeks ago. He was one of the visiting observers from another base. When he saw Marcus's performance during the hostage rescue, he became very interested. Colonel Murdoch was not like the other officers. He was ambitious and greedy. He did not care about serving his country or protecting people. He only cared about money and power. For the past year, Colonel Murdoch had been working with some very dangerous people. These people were defense contractors who wanted to create private armies. They were willing to pay millions of dollars for military secrets and advanced weapons. When Colonel Murdoch saw what Marcus could do, he realized that the young lieutenant might be worth more money than any weapon. The day after the exercise, Colonel Murdoch began making phone calls. "I need you to find out everything you can about Lieutenant Marcus Chen," he told his contact at the Pentagon. "I want to know where he came from, where he trained, and why he is so much better than other soldiers." Colonel Murdoch's contact was a civilian employee who worked with classified files. For the right price, he was willing to share information that should have been kept secret. "This might take some time," the contact said. "If this soldier is as special as you say, his files are probably classified." "I do not care how long it takes," said Colonel Murdoch, "and I do not care how much it costs. I want to know everything about him." 3 days later, the contact called Colonel Murdoch back. "I found something," he said, "but it is very strange. Lieutenant Chen's military records are normal, but there are references to something called Project Prometheus." Colonel Murdoch had never heard of Project Prometheus, but the name sounded important. "What is Project Prometheus?" he asked. "I do not know," said the contact. "The files are classified at a level I cannot access, but I found a few fragments that mention enhanced soldiers and experimental programs." Colonel Murdoch felt his pulse quicken. Enhanced soldiers sounded like exactly what his contractors would want to buy. "Can you find out more?" he asked. "Not through normal channels," said the contact. "But I know someone who might be able to help." Dr. Richard Sterling used to work for the government on classified military projects. He was fired 5 years ago for selling secrets, but he might still have contacts. Colonel Murdoch wrote down Dr. Sterling's contact information. This was exactly the kind of lead he needed. 2 days later, Colonel Murdoch met Dr. Sterling at a restaurant in Washington, D.C. Dr. Sterling was a thin man with nervous eyes. He looked around constantly as if he expected someone to be following him. "You want to know about Project Prometheus?" Dr. Sterling asked in a quiet voice. "Yes," said Colonel Murdoch, "and I am willing to pay well for information." Dr. Sterling smiled. "Project Prometheus is one of the most classified programs in the world. Most people think it was shut down years ago. But it was not." "No," said Dr. Sterling. "They just made it more secret. Project Prometheus creates super soldiers, enhanced humans who are stronger, faster, and smarter than normal people." Colonel Murdoch leaned forward. This was exactly what he had hoped to hear. "How many of these enhanced soldiers exist?" he asked. "Not many," said Dr. Sterling, "maybe a dozen total. They are stationed at different bases around the world, living under fake identities." "How can you identify them?" Dr. Sterling pulled out a small photograph. It showed a silver and black emblem with an eagle and lightning bolt. "They all wear this emblem," said Dr. Sterling. "It is hidden under their uniforms, but if you know what to look for, you can spot it." Colonel Murdoch stared at the photograph. He remembered seeing something similar on Marcus's uniform during the training exercise. "What would someone do with one of these enhanced soldiers?" asked Colonel Murdoch. Dr. Sterling's eyes lit up with greed. "The applications are endless. A private military company could use them as elite assassins. A government could use them for covert operations. A criminal organization could use them for any number of illegal activities. But first, someone would have to capture one of these soldiers." "That is the difficult part," said Dr. Sterling. "These soldiers are very dangerous. But if someone had the right plan and the right resources, it could be done." Colonel Murdoch paid Dr. Sterling a large sum of money for the information. Then he began making more phone calls. The first call was to Viktor Kozlov, a Russian arms dealer who had connections all over the world. Kozlov was interested in any kind of advanced military technology. "You have found one of these enhanced soldiers?" Kozlov asked when Colonel Murdoch explained the situation. "Yes," said Colonel Murdoch. "He is stationed at Fort Harrison in California." "This is very valuable information," said Kozlov. "My clients would pay millions for access to such a person." "What would they do with him?" "They would study him," said Kozlov. "They would try to figure out how the enhancement process works. Then they would create their own enhanced soldiers." Colonel Murdoch's second call was to Maria Santos, who ran a private military company in South America. Santos was always looking for ways to make her soldiers more effective. "If this enhanced soldier is as capable as you say," Santos told him, "he could train an entire army. Imagine having 100 soldiers with those kinds of abilities." Colonel Murdoch's third call was to Chen Wei, a Chinese businessman who worked for companies that the American government did not know about. "The Chinese military would be very interested in this technology," Chen Wei said. "We could arrange for a very profitable exchange of information." By the end of the week, Colonel Murdoch had assembled a network of people who were willing to pay huge amounts of money for access to Marcus Chen. But first, they had to capture him. This would not be easy. Marcus was stationed on a secure military base. He was surrounded by other soldiers and officers who would protect him. And if he really was as enhanced as Dr. Sterling claimed, he would be very difficult to take by force. Colonel Murdoch needed a plan that would get Marcus away from the base and into a situation where he could be captured safely. The plan he developed was clever and dangerous. First, Colonel Murdoch used his military connections to arrange for Marcus to be transferred to a new assignment. He created fake orders that looked completely official. Second, he arranged for Marcus to be transported by a small convoy instead of a large military transport. This would make it easier to intercept him during the journey. Third, he recruited a team of mercenaries who specialized in capturing high-value targets. These men were experienced and ruthless. They did not care about laws or morality. They only cared about money. Colonel Murdoch's plan was to intercept Marcus during his transfer and take him to a secret location. There, Dr. Sterling and other scientists would study him and figure out how the enhancement process worked. But Colonel Murdoch made one serious mistake. He underestimated how many people were watching Marcus Chen. Dr. Harper's monitoring systems detected the unusual activity around Marcus's records. When someone accessed information about Project Prometheus, Dr. Harper received an automatic alert. Dr. Harper immediately began investigating who was asking questions about Marcus. Within days, he had identified Colonel Murdoch as a potential threat. Dr. Harper also discovered Colonel Murdoch's connections to arms dealers and private military companies. It became clear that Marcus was in serious danger. But Dr. Harper faced a difficult choice. If he contacted Marcus directly, it might expose the entire Project Prometheus program. If he did nothing, Marcus might be captured and the program would be compromised anyway. Dr. Harper decided to contact General Hawthorne. She was already involved in the situation, and she was in the best position to protect Marcus. "General," Dr. Harper said during a secure phone call, "we have a problem. There are people planning to capture Lieutenant Chen." Who? Asked General Hawthorne. A colonel named James Murdoch. He has been gathering information about Project Prometheus. He is working with some very dangerous people. General Hawthorne felt a chill run down her spine. What do you want me to do? Keep Marcus safe, said Dr. Harper. Do not let him leave the base for any reason, and watch for anyone who tries to get access to him. What about the fake transfer orders? Dr. Harper was surprised. What transfer orders? Marcus received orders yesterday to report to a new assignment in Nevada. He is supposed to leave tomorrow. Marcus was in the motor pool checking vehicles when he got the message to report to General Hawthorne immediately. The soldier who delivered the message looked worried. Did he say what it was about? Marcus asked. No, sir. But he said it was urgent. Marcus felt a familiar knot in his stomach. Urgent meetings with the general usually meant bad news. He walked quickly across the base toward the headquarters building. As Marcus approached the building, he noticed something strange. There were 2 black SUVs parked near the main entrance. The vehicles looked official, but Marcus did not recognize them. They were not the type of cars that usually came to Fort Harrison. Marcus used his enhanced senses to observe the vehicles more carefully. Through the tinted windows, he could see the shapes of people sitting inside. The people were not moving. They were just waiting. This made Marcus very nervous. He touched the emergency communicator that Dr. Harper had given him. It was still in his pocket, but he hoped he would not need to use it. Marcus entered the headquarters building and walked to General Hawthorne's office. He knocked on the door. Come in quickly, said the general's voice. Marcus opened the door and stepped inside. General Hawthorne was not alone. Dr. Harper was sitting in a chair across from her desk. Both of them looked very worried. Close the door and lock it, said General Hawthorne. Marcus did as he was told. General, what is happening? Sit down, Marcus, said Dr. Harper. We have a serious problem. Marcus sat down and looked back and forth between them. How serious? There are people here to capture you, said General Hawthorne. They are on the base right now. Marcus felt his blood turn cold. How do you know? Dr. Harper pulled out a folder and opened it. We have been monitoring someone named Colonel James Murdoch. He has been investigating Project Prometheus for the past 2 weeks. Who is Colonel Murdoch? He is a corrupt officer who sells military secrets, said Dr. Harper. He has assembled a team of people who want to capture you and study you. General Hawthorne leaned forward. Marcus, the transfer orders you received yesterday are fake. They were created by Colonel Murdoch to get you away from the base. Marcus understood immediately. If he had followed those orders and left the base, he would have been captured during the journey. Where are they now? Marcus asked. We think they are waiting outside, said General Hawthorne. When you do not show up for the fake transfer, they will probably try to take you by force. Dr. Harper stood up and walked to the window. He looked out carefully and saw the black SUVs. They are definitely here, he said. I count at least 6 vehicles. There could be 20 or 30 people out there. Marcus felt his enhanced hearing pick up sounds from outside the building. He could hear people talking quietly into radios. He could hear the sound of weapons being checked. They are getting ready to move, Marcus said. How can you possibly know that? Asked General Hawthorne. I can hear them, said Marcus simply. Dr. Harper looked impressed. Your enhanced senses are working perfectly. What do we do now? Asked. Marcus, Dr. Harper, and General Hawthorne looked at each other. They had been discussing this question for the past hour, but they had not come up with a good answer. We have 3 options, said Dr. Harper. First, we can call for help from Project Prometheus headquarters, but that would take several hours, and we might not have that much time. Second, said General Hawthorne, we can try to contact the regular authorities, but Colonel Murdoch has official military credentials. He might be able to convince them that he has the right to take you. What is the third option? Asked Marcus. Dr. Harper looked uncomfortable. You use your enhanced abilities to escape from the base on your own. Marcus thought about this. He had been trained for combat situations, but he had never been in a real fight where his life was in danger. How many people are out there, he asked. Too many, said General Hawthorne. Even with your abilities, fighting all of them would be very risky. Marcus walked to the window and looked out carefully. He could see the black SUVs and several men in civilian clothes standing around them. The men were trying to look casual, but Marcus could tell they were armed and ready for action. They have surrounded the building, Marcus said. There are teams at every exit. How can you see all that? Asked Dr. Harper. Enhanced vision, said Marcus. I can see much better than normal people. Suddenly, Marcus heard footsteps in the hallway outside the office. Several people were walking quickly toward them. Someone is coming, Marcus whispered. A few seconds later, there was a loud knock on the door. General Hawthorne, called a man's voice. This is Colonel Murdoch. I need to speak with you about Lieutenant Chen. General Hawthorne and Dr. Harper looked at Marcus. They all knew that this was the moment they had been dreading. What do you want, Colonel? General Hawthorne called back. I have orders to take Lieutenant Chen into custody, said Colonel Murdoch. Please open the door. I need to see those orders first, said General Hawthorne. General, I am ordering you to open this door immediately. General Hawthorne looked at Marcus and shook her head. She was not going to let Colonel Murdoch take him without a fight. Marcus made a decision. He pulled out the emergency communicator that Dr. Harper had given him and pressed the red button. Help is coming, he whispered to Dr. Harper. But it will take time. There was another loud knock on the door, followed by the sound of men talking in the hallway. They are getting impatient, said Marcus. They will probably try to break down the door soon. This office has a back exit, said General Hawthorne. It leads to a maintenance corridor that goes to the other side of the building. Show me, said Marcus. General Hawthorne led them to a door hidden behind a filing cabinet. The door opened to a narrow corridor that was used by maintenance workers. This corridor connects to the basement, said the general. From there, you can get to the other buildings on the base, Marcus nodded. I will go first. If there are people waiting in the corridor, I can handle them. Marcus, said Dr. Harper, remember your training. Use only as much force as necessary. These people want to capture you alive, which gives you an advantage. Marcus understood. If Colonel Murdoch's men wanted him alive, they would be more careful about how they attacked him. This might give him opportunities to escape. What about you two? Marcus asked. We will stay here and try to delay them, said General Hawthorne. Go now before they break down the door. Marcus opened the maintenance door and stepped into the narrow corridor. It was dark and cramped, but his enhanced vision allowed him to see perfectly. Behind him, Marcus could hear Colonel Murdoch's men starting to force the office door open. Marcus moved quickly through the corridor. His enhanced hearing told him that there were people moving around in other parts of the building, but the corridor itself seemed empty. After a few minutes, Marcus reached a stairway that led down to the basement. As he started down the stairs, he heard voices coming from below. Check every room, someone was saying. He might try to hide down here. Marcus stopped on the stairs and listened carefully. There were at least 3 men searching the basement. They were moving systematically from room to room. Marcus had 2 choices. He could try to sneak past them, or he could confront them directly. His training told him that sometimes the direct approach was safer than trying to hide. Marcus decided to act. He moved down the stairs silently and positioned himself near the first basement room. When one of the men came out of the room, Marcus was waiting for him. The man never had a chance to call for help. Marcus knocked him unconscious with a single precise blow. Marcus dragged the unconscious man into a storage closet and took his radio. Team 2, this is Parker, came a voice over the radio. Have you found anything in the basement? Marcus recognized this as his opportunity. He pressed the radio button and tried to imitate the unconscious man's voice. This is Parker, he said. Basement is clear. Moving to check the motor pool. Copy that, came the reply. Marcus hoped this would buy him some time. He continued through the basement until he found an exit that led to the vehicle maintenance area. When Marcus emerged from the basement, he found himself behind the motor pool building. This was good because he knew this area very well. More importantly, this part of the base was not well lit at night. Marcus used his enhanced senses to survey the area. He could see and hear Colonel Murdoch's men positioned around the main buildings, but they had not expected him to come out near the motor pool. Marcus's plan was to make his way to the communications building on the other side of the base. From there, he could contact Project Prometheus headquarters directly and call for immediate help. But as Marcus started to move toward the communications building, he heard something that made him stop. Over the radio he had taken, he heard Colonel Murdoch's voice. "The target is not in the headquarters building. Expand the search, and bring in the base soldiers for questioning." Marcus realized that Colonel Murdoch was planning to interrogate the soldiers from Fort Harrison. This included his friends and fellow officers. Even though most of them had made fun of him, Marcus did not want them to be hurt because of him. Marcus made another decision. Instead of trying to escape, he would try to stop Colonel Murdoch's operation entirely. Marcus moved carefully toward the headquarters building. Marcus walked slowly toward Colonel Murdoch and his men. His hands were raised, but his mind was working faster than ever before. He counted 12 armed men. 6 of them were pointing guns at the Fort Harrison soldiers. The other 6 had their weapons aimed at him. "That is far enough," said Colonel Murdoch when Marcus was about 20 feet away. "Now get on your knees." Marcus stopped walking but did not kneel. "I said I would surrender if you let the soldiers go. Let them go first." "Colonel," Murdoch laughed. "You are not in a position to make demands, Lieutenant. You will do exactly what I tell you to do." Marcus looked at his fellow soldiers. Jake Morrison was staring at him with confusion. Tony Walsh looked scared. Captain Rodriguez was trying to stay calm, but Marcus could see anger in his eyes. "Chen," Captain Rodriguez called out, "what is this about? Who are these people?" Before Marcus could answer, Colonel Murdoch spoke. "Your lieutenant is a very special person, Captain. He has abilities that make him worth millions of dollars to certain people." "What are you talking about?" asked Jake Morrison. Colonel Murdoch smiled. "Show them, Lieutenant Chen. Show them what you can really do." Marcus said nothing. He was still calculating his attack plan. If he moved at exactly the right moment, he could disable most of Colonel Murdoch's men before they could react. But the risk to the prisoners was still too high. "You will not cooperate?" asked Colonel Murdoch. "Perhaps this will change your mind." Colonel Murdoch nodded to one of his men who pointed his gun directly at Jake Morrison's head. "You have 3 seconds to show your abilities," said Colonel Murdoch, "or Lieutenant Morrison dies." Marcus felt something snap inside him. For 3 years he had hidden his true nature. For 3 years he had let people think he was weak. For 3 years he had lived a lie to protect the secret of Project Prometheus. But he would not let innocent soldiers die to protect that secret. "All right," said Marcus quietly. "You want to see what I can do? I will show you." Marcus lowered his hands and looked directly at Colonel Murdoch. "But first let me tell you something," Marcus said in a voice that was suddenly different. It was deeper and more commanding than anyone had ever heard from him before. "My name is Lieutenant Marcus Chen. I am part of Project Prometheus, a classified program that creates enhanced soldiers. I have physical and mental abilities that are far beyond those of normal humans." The Fort Harrison soldiers stared at Marcus in shock. This was not the weak, rule-following lieutenant they knew. "For 3 years, I have pretended to be a normal soldier," Marcus continued. "I let you call me names. I let you think I was weak. I let you believe I was nothing special." Marcus took a step forward. Several of Colonel Murdoch's men tightened their grips on their weapons. "But that was all an act," said Marcus. "I am not weak. I am not slow. I am not your toy soldier." Marcus looked at each of his fellow soldiers. "I am something that was created to protect people like you from people like him." Marcus pointed at Colonel Murdoch. "And now you are going to see exactly what that means." What happened next occurred so quickly that most people could barely follow it. Marcus moved with speed that seemed impossible. He covered the 20 feet to the nearest gunman in less than 2 seconds. Before the man could pull his trigger, Marcus had disarmed him and knocked him unconscious. Marcus rolled to the side as bullets began flying. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to avoid every shot. He moved like water, flowing around the gunfire. and striking back with precision. The second gunman went down with a broken wrist. The third never saw Marcus coming. The fourth tried to run but found Marcus waiting for him. Within 30 seconds, half of Colonel Murdoch's men were on the ground. The remaining gunmen tried to use the Fort Harrison soldiers as shields, but Marcus was too fast and too smart for that strategy. He used his enhanced vision to find angles that allowed him to attack the gunmen without endangering the prisoners. "Impossible," whispered Colonel Murdoch as he watched his trained mercenaries being defeated by a single person. Marcus disabled the last gunman and turned to face Colonel Murdoch. The colonel was holding a pistol, but his hand was shaking. "Stay back," Colonel Murdoch warned. "I still have the prisoners." "No," said Marcus calmly. "You do not." Marcus moved so quickly that Colonel Murdoch never saw him coming. One moment the colonel was holding a gun, the next moment he was on the ground, with Marcus standing over him. Marcus looked around at the aftermath of the fight. Colonel Murdoch's men were all unconscious or disabled. The Fort Harrison soldiers were free and unharmed. The entire battle had lasted less than 2 minutes. Jake Morrison, Tony Walsh, and Captain Rodriguez stared at Marcus with amazement and fear. "Chen," said Captain Rodriguez slowly, "what are you?" Before Marcus could answer, the sound of helicopters filled the air. 3 military helicopters landed on the base and dozens of soldiers in black uniforms poured out. Dr. Harper emerged from one of the helicopters and walked quickly toward Marcus. "Are you all right?" Dr. Harper asked. "I am fine," said Marcus, "but my cover is blown. Everyone knows what I am now." Dr. Harper looked at the Fort Harrison soldiers who were still staring at Marcus in shock. "That was unavoidable," said Dr. Harper. "You did the right thing. You protected innocent people." General Hawthorne came out of the headquarters building and joined them. "Is it over?" she asked. "For now," said Dr. Harper. "But this changes everything for Marcus." Marcus understood what Dr. Harper meant. His life as a hidden soldier was over. Too many people had seen his abilities. The secret of his identity could not be kept anymore. "What happens now?" asked Marcus. Dr. Harper thought for a moment. "That is up to you, Marcus. You have several choices." "What are my options?" "First, you could be transferred to a completely new identity at a different location. We could create new documents and a new background for you." "Second," asked Marcus, "you could be reassigned to work openly with Project Prometheus. No more hiding. You would work directly on missions that require your abilities." Marcus looked at his fellow soldiers from Fort Harrison. They were still processing what they had witnessed. "What about them?" Marcus asked, pointing to Jake, Tony, and Captain Rodriguez. "They will be debriefed and asked to sign confidentiality agreements," said Dr. Harper. "They cannot tell anyone what they saw tonight." Marcus walked over to his fellow soldiers. "I am sorry you had to see this," he said. "I never wanted any of you to be involved." Captain Rodriguez shook his head. "Chen, I do not understand any of this, but I saw you risk your life to save us. That is all I need to know about what kind of person you are." Jake Morrison looked ashamed. "All this time we called you toy soldier. We made fun of you. But you were protecting us." "You were protecting everyone," added Tony Walsh. Marcus felt a strange emotion. For 3 years, he had wanted these soldiers to respect him. Now they did, but it felt different than he had expected. "You were not making fun of me," Marcus said. "You were making fun of the character I was playing. The real me, the person you just saw. That is who I have always been inside." Dr. Harper walked up to the group. "Lieutenant Chen," he said, "have you made your decision about your future?" Marcus thought about his options. He could disappear and start over somewhere else. He could join Project Prometheus openly and work on dangerous missions around the world. Or he could choose a third option that Dr. Harper had not mentioned. "Dr. Harper," said Marcus, "I want to stay here at Fort Harrison." Dr. Harper looked surprised. "That is not possible, Marcus. Too many people know about you now." "Maybe that is not a bad thing," said Marcus. "Maybe it is time for Project Prometheus to stop hiding." General Hawthorne stepped forward. "What do you mean?" Marcus looked around at all the faces watching him. These people had seen what he could do. They had seen him use his abilities to protect innocent people. They were not afraid of him. They respected him. For years, Project Prometheus has operated in secret, said Marcus. But tonight proved that there are people who will always try to find us and use us for evil purposes. Marcus pointed to the unconscious Colonel Murdoch. People like him will never stop trying to capture and exploit enhanced soldiers. The only way to stop them is to bring Project Prometheus into the open. Dr. Harper shook his head. Marcus, that is a very dangerous idea. If the public knew about enhanced soldiers, it could cause panic. Or, said Marcus, it could cause people to feel safer. If they knew that there were enhanced soldiers working to protect them, they might feel more secure. General Hawthorne looked thoughtful. Marcus might be right, Dr. Harper. Keeping this program secret has not prevented people like Colonel Murdoch from finding out about it. What are you proposing? Asked Dr. Harper. Marcus stood up straighter. For the first time in 3 years, he felt like he could be completely honest about who he was. I am proposing that I stay here at Fort Harrison as the first openly enhanced soldier in the United States Army, said Marcus. I will train other soldiers. I will go on missions that require my abilities. And I will show the world that enhanced soldiers are not weapons to be feared, but guardians to be trusted. Dr. Harper, General Hawthorne, and the Fort Harrison soldiers all looked at Marcus with new understanding. The toy soldier was gone. In his place stood someone who was ready to step into the light and become the protector he was always meant to be.